It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I want to invite you to an amazing interview. Annie Hoffman is outstanding. She's a media trainer and PR strategist. Her mission is simple: help high-performing professionals confidently navigate every media opportunity, whether we're talking TV, radio, social media, the press, or whatever. Most importantly, Annie partners with C-suite executives, broadcasters, athletes, coaches, authors, experts. She 100% brings out your public presence, your authenticity. She's in this from a place of heart, caring, and 100% alignment with my thoughts. I'm excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Annie. Annie, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. And wow, what an introduction.
So tell me, how did this whole PR thing come about? I could sit here and read your background and it would be really boring, but how did it, PR, you and I have been around the block, similar ages, done a lot of things. How did this whole career, as far as opening your own business, start for you?
Well, quite honestly, I grew up going to visit on vacation as a child to my uncle who was an NFL coach. So quite often I would talk to him about goal setting, about sports, about coaching. So that was already in the back of my head. So then I said, I really want to work at a TV network. And that was one of my goals. I would always write on my goals on an index card in middle school and high school.
I always wrote my goals on an index card. I still write my goals on an index card every year.
Same here. And my friends would always tease me about these big goals I had. But I think because I would repeat them a lot and look at them a lot, I think it just manifested. So I ended up working, and it's a wild, but it's a little bit of a long story, working ABC Sports as a freshman in college. And I just,
Unusual for a woman
yes,
back in the day, very unusual.
matter of fact, there were very few women back then.
Yeah.
And I just started off as a gopher. They called it, production assistant, at the very beginning.
Go refill the coffee, go make the
Yeah.
coffee, go run this errand, go do this. I gotcha. I worked, my very first job out of school was I worked for a company that produced commercials for TV.
Oh, wow.
Yes, go for, I get, like, is the coffee pot filled? Fill this, order this, run and do this, fix this. Gotcha.
And back then, they'd always find the one girl to go type everything too, which was actually very funny. And I'd go to the airport to pick up announcers, but I absolutely fell in love with it. And then from there, I just kept getting asked to go work on another show, or I would ask if I can go work on another show. And so it just snowballed to me working in sports television, working for CBS and NBC and ESPN, which was quite new back then. But I always loved people. And I was the strange young kid who would eat cereal and read the TV guide and look at TV shows. And I think the PR was always in the back of my head because I love promoting people. I get excited about people and their projects. So to me, it was really a natural. So when I graduated college, I did get offered a production assistant job, which is what the first kind of full-time job you get. But then there was a producer who actually went on to produce 60 Minutes who said to me, Annie, you have such a great personality. Have you ever thought about PR? As you know how it works, someone that knew someone at Philip Morris, and she knew someone at a sports agency that they used for their auto racing promotions and their tennis. And so I started working at a PR agency in New York, doing PR for tennis players, race car drivers, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
What drove you to open your own business?
I think I was always entrepreneurial. And I love the fact that I could create. I love creating. I love coming up with ideas. And I felt like when you have your own business, you have a lot of flexibility, I could wake up one day and say, I think I want to try this project, or I think I want to go after this client. So I love the flexibility of it. And I always knew I wanted to have children. And also, quite honestly, I knew that would also give me flexibility. And matter of fact, I actually think it's been great for me. I'm mom and dad to three children. And if I didn't have my own business, I think it would be really difficult because I'm able to have flexibility. But I absolutely love it. I'm just an entrepreneur at heart. In college, I joined what was it called? Like Young Entrepreneurs Organization. And a
I
matter of
don't think I had one when I was in college.
yeah, I got to tell you again what a nerd I was. I would read Success Magazine in college,
Sure.
and I saw them talking. There was an article about it, and I thought, I want to go. So I worked another job to save up money to go to the convention in Los Angeles. And I hit it off with one of the founders. And it was so funny. Not too long ago, he reminded me that Steve Jobs was buying us drinks at that conference. And I said, oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. Because back then I didn't really quite understand who he was. And
I don't think any of us did.
yeah, but it was amazing to be around that kind of energy of young people who were thinking outside the box, starting back then it was like frozen yogurt businesses, or they were thinking of, and I just love being around that energy. So to me, I am a huge fan of entrepreneurship and I love supporting small businesses and people that are just thinking outside the box.
So, your company today, let's talk about Annie Hoffman, public relations, media trainer. The world has evolved so, right? PR has evolved so. What we see as what is business versus what, years ago, it's like, oh, that would never be a business. And it's like, oh my God, that's a mess business, right? What do you see today that is different and interesting than like 20 years ago in the PR space? Because so much has changed in PR.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because years ago, you always needed traditional media. That
Right.
was the national TV networks, the local TV stations, national and local radio. Now you have the digital space, social media. I've done PR for social media stars, and that's fascinating to me. These people just came up with this idea, went on social media, and really with no traditional broadcasting background, have gone on to do quite well.
Yeah.
And so, what I think is fascinating is that anyone, I mean, and the other thing is, you don't have to be in a big market. You don't necessarily, we do a lot of interviews now on Zoom. I always think it's amazing. Like, you could be anywhere in the world and just become a social media star and get deals, brand deals, and get, I mean, it's really amazing.
It truly is. I mean, I know somebody interesting who actually is an attorney who specializes in that.
Interesting.
And I was like, wow, 15 years ago, there was no area of law. And he's like, yeah, first of all, he goes, I work with a ton of parents whose kids are hitting it out of the park. The parents know the kids need to be layers of protection. That's where I am always fascinated of how business is evolving today.
Yeah.
And
And
I think you see so much of it.
yeah, and it's so interesting too because I media trained a social media star to a point where she got very good in. I helped her get a broadcasting job that was going to pay quite well, but she turned it down because she had so many brand deals that were so lucrative.
Ah,
And I said, so interesting.
yeah. The evolution of business.
Yes. And then, but also people at talent departments now at TV networks are looking how many followers you have.
100%.
So that's another thing that's changing quickly. And it's kind of funny. When I was growing up, there was a guy I went to school with, Greg Paul, who would call me Hollywood Hoffman because I was always doing plays. And I always said, I'm going to go to LA. And it's so funny because his kids ended up being huge social media stars, Jake and Logan Paul. So it's kind of funny how.
What comes around goes around. So, one of the things, share a little bit. You have some great stories. You have some great stories. And one of the things, Annie, that I admire about you so is you incorporate the strategy with the mindset.
Mm,
And I think so often, we show up for any business, for any PR per se, but business strategy, we show up for PR strategy and this strategy and that strategy. And then you have like, well, that mindset stuff is over there, right? You've changed how you have not you haven't changed because you are so you in this. Hence the girl who wrote her goals on an index card like I do. But you have incorporated it for clients that we wouldn't think about that would be like the mainstream. Can you share a little bit of your like how your methodology and because it truly you're so unique in the way you insist that this happens.
Well, whenever I have a call with a potential new client, I always say, I could definitely teach you the mechanics. I've been doing this a long time. And the strategy and that's all super fun for me still. I still love it. Like I did the first time I started doing it. But I also said the other part of this is the mindset, which another thing I've been fascinated about. And that kind of ties back into my visits with my uncle, who was an NFL coach, because we would talk about the book Think and Grow Rich, or we talk about mindset and coaching. And so it's interesting how that has like followed me all these years. And so I tell clients, I also need you to walk into what we're creating, the image, I'll tell them, please tell me, what your dream is and where you really see yourself. And I said, okay, so I know all the steps how to do it. I've been doing it long enough, but I also need you to step into that and believe that's your new state of mind. That's who you are.
Yeah.
And I know I've created it for myself when I wanted to have a certain type of life in New York City. And I was this, poor girl from Cleveland, Ohio. I put myself in that frame of mind. I would read books about all these successful entrepreneurs and successful businesswomen in New York City and how they lived. And I ended up living the life I wanted to live. I had a beautiful apartment on Central Park South. I was around all these incredibly, way smarter and talented than me people, but that's the kind of life I wanted. And I totally have created different things along the way for myself. So I know all this is possible for others, for everyone. So it's so fun for me when I work with someone, whatever their dream is. They'll say, I want to work on at some network, or I want to be the host on some show. I
Right.
said, okay. So go through the process of teaching them how to be a great broadcaster. But then I also tell them we have to create a scene where you're already working on that show.
So the scene comes in from the beginning in their head of seeing them on air, on screen, at the desk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll actually forget about some of the things I've done with some of the clients. And then all of a sudden I'll go and, I'll be looking at something on social media. I say, oh my gosh, they're working there. and and then I'll call them and we kind of giggle, but it's almost as if we knew it was going to happen.
Right.
So it's not even that unusual for us. But whatever they want, I always say anything is possible. And
Mhm.
I feel like God, universe, whatever that is for you, if that was put in your heart, that desire, you're meant to have it. So I said, because we all get different desires.
Right.
And so I feel like that was put in your heart for a reason. So I said, okay. And trust me, I've had people that want all kinds of different things. And I said, okay, we're going to go on this journey together. We're going to make it happen.
What has surprised you in your journey?
I tell you what, we're all so much more alike than we're not, right? So I work
Very
with so
true.
many different types of people all day, and which I love. I interact with huge, household names to people that are college kids. So I mean, I have interns in my business, I have assistants, I work with, NFL players, NBA players, things like that. But we're all so much more alike than we're not. And so that I think that if on a spiritual side, I actually, as I move along, I feel like I'm getting more and more like realizing, like, I understand why the ego is important, but I also realize it's not that important. That when we die, basically your ego dies. And this is my,
Your ego is done.
yeah,
Yet what we've done is left behind.
yep. The
And
award.
that's legacy. That's the imprint we're leaving behind.
But the other thing that's interesting is, and I've been around like you, tons of people that have, tons of awards and done extraordinary things. But I know even when I do team media training, I media train a lot of, basketball teams and football teams and things.
Right.
I'll bring up former famous, incredible athletes and they won't know who they are. And I said, it goes to show you how quickly we're forgotten.
Yes.
But I do think the way we make people feel, the way we help people, so I always tell people when they come to me, there are 100 million things I'm not good at, but I will tell you, I'm very good at being with someone and being with their soul. And I said, I also, besides trying to help them create the dream and the life they want, it brings such joy to me when I'm able to help them share their soul and their passion with others in the media, because that's the magic. We're connecting energetically with people. And that's what I love about broadcasting.
I think it is becoming less ooh, when we talk about energy, when we talk about manifestation, for years it was like, oh, that woo stuff,
Right.
right? Now, today, it's very much of like, oh, yes, right. And I'm a firm believer of we are all energy and everything is energy.
And
And
I used to be afraid of
scaling a business is about taking the energy and just elevating it.
yes, and believing that's like your new state of mind, right?
Correct.
It's like when you're elevating your, whatever your monthly goal or what, how many clients you want to get, or everything. It's more of it is really you just believing that is who you are.
Mhm.
And then once you do that, you step into it, and it's amazing how it manifests.
I wouldn't be surprised if your work is similar to mine in the concept of always create a vision,
Yeah.
then truly believe it in your heart of hearts, and then you have to take those actions. And then all of a sudden the vision starts coming to fruition and it's like, wow, look at that. Look at that unfold. Look at that blossom.
What is always magical to me too, and the clients and I giggle about this too a lot, is how things unfold magically. The right person comes into your life. Someone knows someone.
Yep.
I always said we never know exactly the bridge of events, but if we hold that vision of where we're going, you just have to trust that you'll be shown and it'll happen. Well, often it does not end up playing out the way you think it'll play out. And that's the thing you have to trust during the bumpy road.
You have to trust, and I like when you say trust, the first thing that comes to mind for me is let go.
Yep.
Trust and leaning into the trust is letting go of the this is the way it's supposed to happen, right? As opposed to it's happening.
Yeah, and that was a hard one for me. It probably still is a little bit because I'm very type A and I'm hard charging, get up every I have so much energy and I want to make things happen all the time. But I've learned over the years to trust more and more and to let go.
Hmm.
And I'll have clients call me upset about something and I'll say, I know it's hard to see right now, and I understand and all your feelings are valid, but you have to know we're still headed where we're going. Just a little bump.
Yeah.
Try not to get too caught up or worried or upset about it, and just know it's all gonna work out.
Would you be open to sharing an example? And you don't have to share names. An example of how you've taken a client from beginning to where they are, because I really want our listeners to understand the scope of what you do and what's possible in doing. Because we're talking about the vision and the manifestation, and I'm sure like some of the listeners like, yeah, 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 yeah. But I truly want them to actually see the beautiful, beautiful work you do.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Quite honestly, everyone's journey is very, very different. But
Mhm.
for instance, there's a client I have right now that I'm working with who he and I talked quite a long time ago. And he was telling me kind of his vision for some of his goals. And I said, part of that is you should write a book and then get PR and become, where you're getting out in the public, you're going on TV, you're going in you're getting interviewed for magazines, you're going on podcasts. And that'll be part of the bigger vision that we're doing. Because he has an interest in politics, running for Congress. So he wrote the book. And quite honestly, I kind of forgot about our conversation. He said, okay, I wrote the book. So now it's time you and I need to talk about PR.
Yeah.
I've gotten him on so many shows around the country with so many different angles. Now, he's been so fun to work with because he also gives me a lot of great ideas for different angles and things. We really collaborate incredibly well. So
Beautiful.
it's incredible how much press he's gotten. We've gotten him on so many morning shows, interviewed by so many podcasts in so many different outlets, even on the digital space, the Fox News, the CNBC, and so forth. So it's all playing out. And he's getting repeated requests. And I said, okay, now we're ready for national because we've done really incredibly. We're in New York, we're in Philadelphia, we're in DC, we're in all these other markets. So it has been so fun for me. He was always naturally pretty good on TV and stuff. And I
They
always
are.
I said, you're really a natural at this. Now, listen, I train them and so forth, but he's always been so good. And it's been so fun to watch him turning into this media star. And I said, quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up working in media. But I think it's part of our bigger plan. We're going to prepare him to be well known. And then if he decides to go ahead and follow through, then on the running for Congress. But
I
I
love, I
told him his life would be very different, and it is very different. So that's fun for
love that.
me. Is and to see the confidence, to see them, they become media stars, and so it's so fun for me.
What is one tip or piece of advice you can give our listeners in when we look at our own brands? And let's say a lot of our listeners are either business leaders, CEOs, they're running their own companies. What is one tip we could be thinking about in running our own brand and what we could be doing for our own exposure?
I really think what I'm surprised because I do it with all my clients that it's not consistent. You need to make sure that it's consistent across all your social media platforms, your bio, your colors, the look, even across, your website, and making sure you're updating those things. And then making sure that you have all these different things in place. I do think it's important to be visible. I think nowadays you almost cannot be visible in business. Whether you're
Yes. I'm just saying yes.
Well, it's interesting because I teach people to be on camera, and quite honestly, in many ways, I would love to just get up and do the work, but I do know that being visible, you cannot not be visible now. So whether that's going live, whether that's contributing, to magazines, podcasts, interviews, you need to really put yourself out there. And it's fun because it evolves, right? At some point in your career, you want to be seen more as a thought leader. So then you got to kind of make that shift. But it's really amazing. But I do think what I'm shocked is that I don't see people being very consistent in the look of all their platforms, their website, and the way they're showing up. You got to put a little thought into the way you're showing up.
You need to be put, it's interesting. You say, because again, every time we talk, we're so aligned on so many different things, so many things in so many ways. I will say too, in the work that we do here at Slater Success, in scaling and succession planning, et cetera, and truly scaling companies, it's the consistency.
Yep.
It's the consistency. People lose their, are they going in this direction? Oh, then there's this bright, shiny object. Then there's this bright, shiny. And I can be talking about very large companies and it's still the same. It's the consistency across your strategic planning and your financials, your marketing, your sales, your team, your brand. Consistent leadership, consistent thought, consistent action. I love that.
I tell you, the other thing I'm noticing is I was always a very analytical person to a
Yeah.
point where I was young. My friends would say, "You stop analyzing everything." I'm just a very critical thinker. What I do think is being lost is some of the critical thinking. So I always am telling my team and telling people we need to step back and we got to look at everything.
Yeah.
You just can't do because I love strategy. And so I said, we got to look at the strategy. Is this aligned with what we're doing? I noticed this with the generator. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it has to do with social media, or I'm not sure where. I haven't really studied it yet. But it's interesting to me because I must say it every day. You guys, we got to take a step back. Does this make sense? Have we thought this through?
And I use words that are more you aligned of let's pull back the lens for a moment.
I love that.
Let's pull back the lens for a moment. We're doing close ups in all these areas. Let's pull this back and look at the big picture and make sure everything is still aligned. Has anything changed out there?
Yep.
Have things changed in the environment? Have things changed in business? Right, we have the onset of AI and technology advancements. Probably, we have a technology interruption along the lines of the truly the industrial revolution right now that
Yeah.
changed business entirely, and this is going to have a long-term impact and change for the better. Right, if we see it for the better, we'll create it for the better.
Yes. But I tell people too, the technology, and I love technology. We can't lean on it for everything.
No, we
I,
have to be people. It's the people behind the technology that makes, if we let go of the human thought,
yeah.
technology is worthless.
As you know, I love the human thought because I'm such a believer that thoughts create.
Yep.
And so AI, although who knows, that one day I sometimes do think it's starting to read my thoughts, but I'll go to put something in. I said, that sounds like me. But I do think it's so important that we don't get away from the human touch because I feel even stronger about it. I've always been strong about it in the way I train people about being authentic. I'm even more feeling stronger about it as I move along because that is truly how we connect with people. And is truly what separates us as humans. When we connect on that authentic level, and as going back to what we were talking about earlier in the show, the energy,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Like I tell people, I don't care if I'm training a weatherman, which I've trained, or training a newscaster or a sports sideline reporter. What I'm trying to help you do is when we connect with that person at home. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps even talking about it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's an energetic thing. And it's like that person at home knows you're speaking to them. And that's the beautiful thing about broadcasting and about communications. That's why I love this business because when we get to that sweet spot, and that's someone's sweet soul. Like when I'm working with anyone, I don't care if it's an athlete, a CEO, I said, when we talk from that special place, that heart space, you're really connecting. And that's a beautiful thing.
Annie, I know you and I can go on and we could probably do a follow-up interview, and we will. Thank you for joining me on Her Success Story. Thank you for sharing your brilliance, your energy, your knowledge, and your heart with our listeners and the Her Success Story audience. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Listeners, this is the point in the show. I say the same thing every time. So listen up if you haven't gotten it yet. Take a deep breath in. Identify one thing, just one takeaway, one aha from today. Not a lot. I don't want a page full of notes, but one thing. Jot it down somewhere. If it's in your phone, your computer, a piece of paper, I don't care. But then make the decision on what's the one action you're going to take from that takeaway. What was the one piece that was meaningful to you that you're going to put in action for today forward? On that note, thank you for joining us. If this was enjoyable to you, please share it forward. Remember to hit subscribe. We have a great time with Kira at Her Success Story with wonderful interviews continuing to come up. Stay with us as we come towards later in the year. We'll have our nonprofit series, which is always something I'm very, very passionate about. So I'm already starting to tease it out there. See you soon. Thank you for joining us.